It's the man with the golden gun, Ian Fleming, James Bond. You buy the book, you'll realize that the differences between the book and between the movie is night and day. You have a lot of the same characters. You have Mary Goodnight, James Bond, M. The main villain, I can't make my mouth say his name, so I'm going to call him Mr. S, which some people refer to him as Mr. S. The KGB, agent refers to him as Mr. S because he can't say his name either. I hope that doesn't mean I'm KGB. But the books are completely, or the movie and the book are completely different. In the movie, if I remember correctly, I haven't seen it in a while, James Bond seeks him out. He goes to Japan, I think it's Japan, and he finds out who his gunsmith and his bullet maker. In the movie, he has what appears to me to be a single-shot golden gun, and he shoots a gold bullet. It's a proprietary bullet to the gun, and it could be a single-action semi-auto, but I've only seen him shoot it one bullet at a time. So it seems to be a single-shot golden gun with golden bullets. And in the book, it's a golden single-action Colt 45. Ian Fleming describes it as a single-action Colt 45 in a .451, I think, 451, or it might be 454 caliber. And the bullets have a solid gold, soft gold core with a silver jacket. I don't know, it could be sterling silver, but he didn't say it was sterling silver, but to me that would make more sense. To have a little bit harder jacket. But think about it. It's a .45 caliber bullet that's gold and silver. So, pretty interesting gun. I'd love to see a ballistic test with that composition of bullet to see how it mushrooms and does things. But anyways, the movie takes place on a private island, and the bad guy has some kind of diabolical plan that involves, I think, some kind of destructive weapon. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong. I might be messing them up because I haven't seen the movie in forever. So the book is in my recent memory. But it's more of a duel, James Bond and the Mr. S are kind of in a fun shoot house, Hogan's Alley, whatever you want to call it. It's like a shoot house, kind of what police would train in, and it has like pop-up targets or pop-up people, but they're actually engaging each other, trying to shoot each other. And this is a completely different from the book, which in the book, James Bond goes to this Jamaican whorehouse, and he describes the manager/bartender, who is a little bit more of a saint than the other employees. Her name is Tiffy, and he describes her as an octoroon. Now, I had to look this up. I've never heard the term in my life, and when I looked it up, the definition said this is a derogatory dated term for 1/8 blood Africans with European blood. So it's 1/8 African with it might be 7/8 European, but James Bond concludes that she has some Chinese ancestry in her. So this is a dated or politically incorrect term. I'm going to go on a little rabbit trail. Some other politically incorrect things about this book, and I'm not complaining. It makes it a very interesting book. But James Bond slaps this Tiffy is her name after the bad guy S, or Mr. S, walks in and is trying to intimidate James Bond and shoots her pet birds with these golden .45 bullets. He's a good shot, obviously. And he doesn't know it's James Bond yet, but he's just trying to, act all tough and stuff. And so there's a lot of things in there that wouldn't completely jive in today's literature, but it definitely adds a lot of character to the book. And I'm not complaining. I'm not saying that it should be canceled or censored or anything. I'm just saying it really adds a lot of character to the book, and it's funny at some points. Anywho, I hinted at this. I can't remember. I got off topic, but anyways, he calls this woman Octoroon. I had to look it up, and apparently she's 1/8 African to 7 to 6/8 European and possibly Chinese. And Mr. S gets finished with one of the employees at the whorehouse and comes down, and the woman is very scared of this man, and he flexes by shooting this woman's pet birds. And that's when James Bond has to slap her a couple times. And then Mr. S befriends James Bond under James Bond's fake name and hires him to be kind of an assistant at a hotel. And his job as an assistant is to guard the door while his businessmen have their meetings and make sure that none of them get too crazy. And he's also in charge of the entertainment at certain points in the book. And then one of the businessmen turns out to be a KGB agent, and he eventually recognizes James Bond, and things go bad for James Bond, and James Bond has to get out of that situation. But this is the thing that really struck me. And Ian Fleming did a wonderful job of describing this, the setting of the book and the people and what was going on. But the book, like the movies are generally PG-13 or PG. The book is not PG, and I would err not to say PG-13. If this book was made into a movie and was recorded authentic to the book, and depending on the director, it would be rated R or possibly higher. Anyways, it's not to the point of 50 Shades of Grey, but considering the movies are usually PG and PG-13 movie, I might have a problem with this book being in a high school library. I think it might be a little bit inappropriate. That's just me. Now, as an adult, not in high school, going, buying this book, listening to it and stuff, I wasn't overly bothered by the imagery and stuff, and it was certainly not super blue or super X-rated like 50 Shades of Grey or something like that. But I was like, man, the descriptions and stuff, I could definitely picture what was going on, and it just was a sharp contrast to the movies that we generally see. And that's what I'm going to say about that. Like I said, it's not overly vulgar, although I'm a little bit disappointed in the amount of times they took the Lord's name in vain, but I understand in a military or masculine environment that is kind of common language with people who are paid to kill other people. So that was an interesting part of the book. It gave it a lot of character. And like I said, if I was a high school librarian, I would be careful or uneasy about letting this book be in the high school library. And there's that. But I enjoyed the book. I was laughing out loud at points in this book. I was very taken in by the descriptions, how the layout of the hotel, what was going on. There was not a whole lot of gadgets. There was gadgets at the beginning of the book, but not further into the book. But it was definitely a interesting, well-written book. And I think Ian Fleming did a good job writing it. It was written in 1965, just to give you a time span of when the book came out. Keep in mind it was written by someone who was in World War II. I think Ian Fleming was a MI6 secretary at the time in World War II. But so if any of the dated tropes show up, understand it was written by a different generation, and just understand that it's art, and don't take it too offensively. It's definitely not, the way that James Bond uses the term octoroon. He's not like using it as a label to demean the woman. He was just describing what she looked like, having coffee skin and stuff like that, with cream added to it. So it was definitely interesting to listen to this book. And so Felix is in the book. If you don't know who Felix is James Bond's friend from the CIA. And James Bond was sent to kill Mr. S as a basically a suicide mission, that if he killed this man, he would be back in the good graces of the UK Secret Service, MI6. And it turns out when he goes over there, he uncovers a big conspiracy. And, he actually does more than just eliminate a threat. He actually saves a ecosystem or a comedy. And he helps the CIA in the process of it. So, cool book. Would highly recommend it to you if you're a little bit older. I definitely don't want, kids that necessarily reading it, but I think it's a well-written book, a very entertaining book, and if you like James Bond, I'd highly recommend it. In fact, I was so impacted by James Bond as a kid, I now carry a Walther PPK in 32 ACP, and mine is from the time period that could have been around when James Bond was walking around Europe. Mine was made pre-1940s, so James Bond's PPK was probably made in the 50s or 60s, probably 50s. So mine is probably older than James Bond's gun. The Walther PPK does make an appearance. And not only that, the man with the golden gun, Mr. S, he has a bullet laced with snake venom. And that's pretty different from the actual movie, I believe, if I remember correctly. So that's it. That's the book review. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Asatsu5, and I'm out.